From healing to high performance, this is the Warriors Ascent Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Torch AI, unlocking human potential.
Well, all right. Welcome to the Warriors Ascent Podcast with your hosts, Mike and Matt.
Hello.
Hello. So we've got some guests for you all today. And as we opened up the season, our fifth season, right? We talked about, I'll say, partnerships, strategic partnerships, good people, supporters, all of that. Well, we're very, very lucky. We've got two individuals that have been through the Warriors Ascent program, and have now, and in the past have come back as mentors. And I'll explain that a little bit. But we're broadcasting, by the way, from Heartland Retreat Center. So you'll notice the locale is a little different, kind of intimate, kind of cool, right? So that's neat, number one. And we've got a cohort going on as we speak. And we've got Nicole and Kim, both of whom are mentors for this particular female cohort. Cohort 66, mind you. Yeah. So,
66,
awesome.
I
know. So our mentors, as we've said in the past, I believe, I like to say, are exemplars of what right looks like, meaning they've been through the program. They've taken what it is that they've learned at the Warriors Ascent program, integrated and incorporated it into their lives, and are in a much better place as a result. So much so that they've come back to pay it forward and hold space and help a new group of ladies as they go through the Warriors Ascent program, and we collectively put them on the path to healing. So we are so glad that you're here. We'll let you tell your stories, all of that, before I start asking probing questions.
That's right.
You got anything to add?
I just wanted to say that right before we came on, you both grabbed each other around the shoulders and said you're cohort 54. Is that right?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. And you still
cohort sisters.
I love how that, you stick together and you still doing texts and staying together as a cohort. That's pretty awesome if you are.
A lot of us do. Maybe not collectively, but a lot of us have kept touch over the years.
There you go.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. I was in 52, so you were just right after me, and it's been a couple of years, and so it's fantastic to have you back as mentors. So we'd love to hear more about it.
No, absolutely. So first, ladies, make sure the mics are up. That way we can hear your lovely voices. So let me ask each of you first, what else? I'll just go down the line, but just introduce yourselves first and tell us your backgrounds and what brought you to Warriors Ascent. After that, I'll ask, what was your experience like? After that, I'll say, what is it of the program that you incorporated into your lives? I'll ask you that. And then lastly, any messages that you have for anybody that's listening that might find themselves currently in the position that you were in years ago, contemplating whether or not you should reach out and get some help.
Right. So
Nicole, we'll start with you. Tell us about yourself. What brought you to Warriors Ascent?
So my name's Nicole, and I was part of cohort 54, which was September 2 years ago. So the female fall cohort. I came to Warriors Ascent after witnessing a suicide of my significant other. I had worked at Department of Corrections at the time. I was CIT certified, and I had a very similar scenario during CIT training just weeks prior. So the police decided not to take me off scene. They left me on scene the entire time during the entire standoff until ultimately he took his own life in front of me via firearm. And then I took a couple days off work because, we only need a couple days to recover from everything.
From something traumatic.
Especially after you've dealt with trauma your whole career. And maybe, like for me, I had childhood trauma, which I know seems very common when I come to the cohorts. Mm-hmm. So we only need a couple days off to recover, and then we're good to go back to work. But when it came down to it, I was not good. Right. And my friend at DOC, who wasn't even in my area, she said, hey, I have one of girls I supervise going to this thing in Kansas City. Like, I'm just going to send you some information. I don't know anything about it. And it was actually Kim. So Kim and I actually met here, not knowing that maybe we were referred by the same person at Department of Corrections. And then I came through here and I cried a lot, probably more than I cried in a long time. And I put in some work. And then I've been back to mentor several times now, participated for my birthday last year. My gift to myself was to come back to KC for the weekend retreat with WA. And then I've used other resources like BetterHelp, and I meet with a therapist regularly. And I ultimately left Department of Corrections, and now I do something completely different. I do lawn care, which is a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Kim.
All right. My name's Kimberly Parsons. Go by Kim, and I'm also work for the Missouri Department of Corrections. I've been a unit supervisor with Department of Corrections now for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was a probation and parole officer for 11 years. Started out here in Kansas City at the Release Center for a year as a probation and parole assistant. So came up in Department of Corrections. My trauma that brought me to Warriors Ascent started really young. So as a child, I think my story, it's important to kind of see it from the beginning, because then as I became a teenager, it caused a lot of rebellion, and kind of getting into the wrong crowd, getting into drugs, kind of that partying. And I ended up being a teenage pregnancy. Very grateful for my daughter. She's saved my life, but at the time, that it was it's a lot to deal with when you're 16 years old. So end up getting married at 19. Her father ended up being abusive, to not only myself, but to her. So by, I think the age of 21, I was divorced, and so many years of being single, working in Department of Corrections, dealing, going to therapy, but not really finding that breakthrough. It was just like, you're always just on the edge, and it's like, you just hope this therapist will help you. Well, then I learned about PTSD. I was in an accident in 2015 that, my father was killed. I was in the back seat, and that kind of began then I heard about Warriors Ascent. And when I came here, I'd had probably secondary drama in the Department of Corrections, with hearing people's stories and what they go through. But my trauma wasn't in the department. So when I came here, I didn't know why I was coming. There was, you think that when you come here, I'm on administrative leave, Department of Corrections paying for me, to be here for this week, my salary. So I thought, it's because of work. That's why I'm here. And then I got around this group of women and Nicole and myself, and I realized we all had childhood abuse. Not one of us didn't, whether it was sexual, physical, as a teenager or as a young child. And through the program, I was able to, and I know you may get to that in a little bit, but through different things that we did, I was able to let go of some shame. And eventually I came back. That was in September. I came back in April and mentored. And I had met my significant other after being single for over 20 years. So I'm very grateful to Warriors Ascent.
That's fantastic to hear those things. That Warriors Ascent. What do you think, either of you, Nicole, once you got brought here, what was special that you were here that you found really special and that maybe helped you with a breakthrough?
I think that's that I got rest for the first time in 6 months, and not medicated rest. Mm-hmm. Not because I took a Xanax to go to sleep, or because I took some Prozac so I could maybe have some happy feelings being released in my gut. But I think this was the first time that I actually laid my head down somewhere and just slept. And I think it was the first time I just cried, and I didn't feel shame of crying. Like, I can't cry because my kids are here, or because I'm being told, put on your big girl panties and move on, or we just can't keep being sad every day, or we have to go to work because you have to provide. This was the first time I could just rest and not have to worry about anything. It was the first time I could cry without being told, like, okay, get over it. Time to move on. We have stuff to do. And for me, that alone was healing, because I could finally just take that moment to myself and say, okay, like, I need this cry. Or like the movie that we watch here, I'm going to be honest, I've never watched it because I had my yoga mat and I slept in the back of the room with my yoga blanket, curled up on my yoga mat, because that was the first time I could just lay down and just take a breath and relax.
Yeah. Do you have a moment you can think of, Kim?
Yes. Today, the ladies did the labyrinth. And that experience, like I said, it was Tuesday, and I was like, I'm not real sure why, what is my purpose? You wanted to get the best you can from the program. And when I'm walking through and we're in this maze and I'm following the person in front of me, and I'm like, it's like being in traffic, and we're in a traffic jam, and they won't get out of my way because I'm used to running at such high anxiety, just, in the living for the next moment. And they had given me a stone I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with this. But when I started looking at it, and I started getting to the point where it's like, it started representing something to me. And it became, in the process of going through this maze, I was like, I'm holding on to my daughter. And it just was allowed me to feel those feelings in the grief and the shame of, what she had to go through, and what, that you did the best you can. But anyway, so I took this rock, and I was able to get to the middle of the maze and realize that I can set this down. I don't have to carry this anymore. I can meet people. We'll be okay.
I like that. We got the stone, same thing. And somebody had made comment about what they did with it. It was a different thing. So I think that's really neat that everybody kind of comes up with their own theory on what that stone is, put it down, and it's a burden. I think that's really neat. Those exercises, I'd never heard of such a thing, but I think maybe it allows you to be calm and quiet, and you're kind of forced into it, and you're looking around at other people too, being calm and quiet. Maybe their first ever time in a long time. It was kind of a big impactful thing for me as well. Like,
No, I appreciate you ladies sharing. I know that's deep stuff, vulnerable stuff, but I think for people that are going to listen to this particular podcast and in hearing that, I think it's really going to resonate. So I just want to say I do appreciate you sharing that, and I think that's going to be very, very impactful. So know that. So I'll ask this. Of the facets of the program, and there are a multitude, the multimodal, multi-group therapeutic program. What are the practices that I'll say really resonated with you, and how have you applied them to your lives? Like, what are your go-to, whether it be self-care, maybe it's some of the mental models and rubrics, some of the cognitive behavioral, what have you? So, what are the go-to things that you, once you left, were like, hey, I need to apply this to my life, and now, literally years later, here you are. So, Cole, we'll start with you.
I think for me, it was figuring out like what my mission is in my life.
Okay.
So at DOC, they tell you what your mission is. And I knew my job very well. I knew policy well. I knew what I was supposed to do when I went in and out. And then I'd come home. My kids would probably tell you I was still a PO at home. Like, we don't go to certain people's houses because they're probably bad. Or, we don't play outside with an adult because kids get kidnapped, because we live in St. Louis, the highest sex trafficking area. And so I was still like this PO mommy at home, not really knowing what my mission was. And so once I figured that out, it became much easier for me to navigate every day and to guide conversation or to just understand maybe what my purpose is. And so for me, that was probably the most impactful of WA, in conjunction with all the talking about the process of the trauma, or, utilizing resources or like the W-3s that are educational. But at the end of the day, knowing what my mission is ties all of that back together for me.
No, see, that's super insightful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the cognitive behavioral aspects, there's the self-care aspects. But as we've seen for a lot of people, it's like, hey, who am I? It's kind of almost like higher level. So we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Which everyone's familiar with, but at the very top is self-actualization, and then what Abraham Maslow says, what one can be, one must be, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not really clear on, hey man, who am I? What is my mission? What's my purpose? And as you pointed out, I mean, so many people, and we've said this before, their identity is inextricably linked with their job, their profession, their position. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but when you're not really attuned to, okay, this is my job and this is what I do, but really what is my, I'll call it a personal value proposition. What is it that you do? What is the value that you add to the world, to your family, to society, to yourself, whatever it might be. So that's interesting. Kim, same thing, same question.
Well, I think mine comes a little bit more breathing. I don't think I had ever been taught how to breathe. And taking those deep breaths and letting that out, what that can do to calm your anxiety. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. And just learning to slow down, creating that mission statement, journaling, but yoga and breathing has been the practice that has that calms me in the moment that I can use every day.
Yeah, man, I have to agree with you. I make these tables for every year for the big gala event, and I always include a wrench in them because it means to me that they gave me these tools that changed my life because I'm able to take this tool. And my tool is the breathing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that changed everything for me because, nobody taught me that either. And when things are spooling out of control, the one thing you can control is your own breath. And that was powerful for me, and I use it all the time.
Yes.
I need it less and less now, but when I need it, it's right there. So I think that's awesome.
Yes.
So when you came to us, and we hear these stories, I'll say pretty consistently, what were your initial impressions? I mean, we hear everything from people being out in the parking lot going, oh my Lord, how did I let it get to this, to like, it's not too late to turn back, to all right, I got in there and I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? What were your, I'll say, initial impressions and all of that? And I think this is important because there might be a lot of people that kind of maybe feeling that now, like, I don't want to embark on that because this is craziness. Or, they've got some degree of reluctance. And I think, hearing your stories and how, maybe you overcame that and said, no, I'm going to get the help I need. What was your experience like, I'll say, on the road to coming to us, and then when you got here, what was that like?
So I remember my drive here.
Yes.
So when the suicide took place, it took place right off Highway 270. Could see the parking lot where it happened. I was still in a mode of panic. Driving up the highway, I couldn't get on 270. I said, oh my God, now I have to go to this place and I have to go right past it. Like, I'm not going. I got stuff to do. I got kids. I got a job. So I took every back road until I didn't have to drive past that spot. Yeah. And I remember checking the hotel. I remember checking out the next morning. I'm going to be early. I think I showed up right on whatever time Tammy told me I had to be here. Because I'm like, still got time, but I'm not going to not go. But I debated the whole way here. And then I came as like, oh God, what am I doing? Like, I don't know any of these people.
Right.
There's no way they can understand what I've been through.
Right.
But then at some point I just found this rest. Like I said before, I was just able to find rest and just some form of peace that I hadn't felt. And I said, okay, this is kind of nice. Like, I have rest. And then since then, every time I come back, there's just something about coming to Heartland that's so just peaceful and magical at the same time. And that all that fear that you initially have, it dissipates by the end of the week. And you forget that you even, or at least I forgot I even had fear by the end of the week. And I would do it all over again. And I wish I didn't have that fear when I came initially. Maybe I would have got something more the first day, or maybe I would have smiled more. But by the end of the week, the peace that I was able to just have and the not being tired anymore was just a win overall.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Kim.
So I think you call it compact trauma, like when trauma builds upon trauma.
It's either that or complex.
Complex.
Okay.
It's complex.
Okay,
Yeah.
complex. But I didn't, getting me here, you think to yourself, people have had it a lot worse than me. I haven't seen someone, stabbed in the institution, went to the Department of Corrections, or worked, as a beat cop, or been over in Iraq. Those situations, I'm just like, those resources are for other people, not for me. And so when I came, I was like, I know I need to be here. I've been told I need to be here by others, but what is my purpose here? And I think I just encourage anyone that's thinking about coming to Warriors Ascent is to realize, this program is for you, and you will, you're going to take away something.
That's good. I mean, ever since I've came out, I've been involved, on the board and trying really hard to help out the organization any way I can. And one of the things is finding people to come to these retreats. It's a lot harder to fill these seats than it looks, and a lot of people say what you just said. I said it. Tammy Brown, our outreach coordinator, she gets the story a lot of times. I really believe there's other people that need this more than I do.
Yes.
And so I haven't seen the traumas others have seen. I've only seen these things. It's very common amongst people that are service-oriented people. But what I find out at the end of the week, one of the things everybody always says is, I'm enough. I am enough. The things that have happened to me are bad enough for me to be here getting this help. So I appreciate, and then to come back over and over as mentors and spread this message to others. And I appreciate it so much that you would tell others, just get here. It's hard. It was the hardest thing I ever did was drive here too. It was the hardest thing, 2-hour drive to get here going, man, I'm ready to go any direction, past Kansas City. But it's really, I love the message, and I hope you keep spreading that message to get people to keep coming, even though it's hard.
Yeah. Coming back as a mentor is the best.
So yeah, explain that. Like what makes it rewarding? I mean, number one, we appreciate you all because, hey, you're paying it forward. You're helping us out, exemplars of what right looks like. But I think also, I would hope you derive some level of benefit from it,
Yes. Well, getting to come to see other women find their voice, find their purpose, their vision. But also, you learn more every time you're here, and getting that opportunity, it's like getting to go through it again on a level and picking up more tools for your toolbox. And, Friday, it always falls close to my birthday. This time my birthday happens to be on Friday, and I told Tammy I can't think of a better place to be for my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
happy birthday.
What do you think about being a mentor?
Yeah.
So when I left this time and my boys were at home and I was leaving, it was a lot harder to leave them this time. Even though I've been here numerous times, I just looked at them and I said, every time I leave, I get to come home a better mom. Every time. I come home a little bit better of a mommy. And it's because I get to give a gift that was given to me by Tasha and by our other mentors. And then, we talk about being in our own cohort, but there's so many people I've connected with. Carrie used to do the weekend phone call. That kind of stopped when Carrie started moving towards Oklahoma and going his own direction. I started having my own little video phone chats with people from other cohorts. And there's, I received the most beautiful wooden flag from another member of WA, from Tim, and it's at my house and it's gorgeous. And who knew he lives like just up the highway from me. Yeah. And to see that there's so many other people that we don't even know that we're impacting it's just such a great feeling. Then when you get to mentor and you get to see these lives change, maybe not in that week, but as months go on and the years go on and you see the chats and then you meet up with people again and you just see the progression, it's just the best feeling you can get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why, we feel it's so important that we get a spot that's like home for us, that we can get everybody home all the time. And we know we have a big group out in St. Louis.
We actually we did the little fundraiser at one of the restaurants. Mm-hmm. So I got to meet other Warriors Ascent people that I didn't even know were local, and that was exciting too, because like we're here and there's not other people from St. Louis in my cohort, and I got to meet other DOC members. But just to know, like, oh, okay, well, Charlie's just a hop skip away in a phone call.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if I need something, I'm sure I could call him. Yeah. Or even like they might be in Tennessee or over in Kansas, and I know I can pick up the phone if I really need something, and we're going to pull together as a group because we have this in common.
Yeah, that's what, being in a community, a tribe, whatever you want to call it, it's empowering. It's fantastic.
All right, ladies. Well, hey, we appreciate you so much being here. Appreciate your mentorship. Yeah, and I'll say, some of the secret sauce, aside from the curriculum and all of the stuff and all of the healing modalities and the self-care, really, quite frankly, is the group. I mean,
yeah,
the students themselves, they coalesce nicely. I think, the validation, them knowing that, hey, I am not alone in my suffering, but I think your mentorship is the icing on the cake, because really they look at you and you are proof positive that if you do the work and you trust the process, the program works. That's and totally I like right. to say that you are exemplars of what right looks like. So we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for watching this episode of the Warriors Ascent Podcast. We're in Kansas City helping veterans and first responders with PTS. Check us out at warriorsascent.org.